biology students, and welcome to Bio with Benson. So we are going to do a little bit of a flipped classroom where this week for this unit, you are going to take notes at home watching my videos. And then in class, we're going to be doing activities and labs. And the reason we're doing this is twofold. One, when you get to college and you are taking biology, chemistry, physics, general science, whatever science class, a lot of them are set up like this, where you are watching videos at home, you are taking notes, and then you actually have to know the material when you show up to class. Two, this opens up a lot of time so we can do some fun labs that are hands-on, that are more exciting, and we are not sitting there for 45 minutes taking notes and waiting for everyone to write down the notes. Also, there's a third reason. You can pause this and you can go back and look at it and pause it and then skip forward or watch it double speed. Like, it is completely up to you how you want to do this. So with that, you should have your notes that I gave you from class. They are about cellular respiration. Oh man, one of the most exciting topics. I am going to present my screen. We're going to pretend it's COVID. Haha. And we are going to talk about cellular respiration. Here we go. And while we do it, you have my little kitty friend here to kind of like cheer you on and to remind you, get a snack, get some water, have fun. Okay, cellular respiration. The word respiration, you probably have heard it before. Typically, when we talk about respiration, you are talking about like you're breathing, right? You're respiring. Your cells do something very, very similar, but the goal of it is not actually to breathe. It is to break down glucose into energy. So we're going to talk about how like specifically your cells get energy. So we're going to start in this top right corner. Move this over. Okay, cellular respiration takes place in all living cells. So plants, animals, eukaryotic, prokaryotic, all living cells, cellular respiration happens. And the point of it is glucose is broken down, releasing the energy stored in its bonds. And this is used to produce the magical, wonderful, amazing compound ATP. ATP, we will talk about it in a little bit more in detail, like exactly what it does. But it is responsible for all of the energy that happens in your body. Like, it is an actual molecule, but we can treat it just like energy. So like right now I'm speaking, you're breathing, what your body is doing to do those things is breaking down ATP to get the energy. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, I guess second thing we're going to do, is we are going to draw and label a molecule of ATP in this space. The beauty of ATP is two of them you already know about. It's this A that you don't. So we're going to draw this A first. It stands for adenosine. And we are going to draw it like a flag. This is just a representation. We'll draw the actual molecule later, but we just want to get a visual representation of what it looks like. So, and we are going to label this adenosine, ADENOSINE. There is our adenosine. That is the A in ATP. And if you have a color, I'm going to use my highlighter. I'm going to color it in. Oh yeah, doodle notes are so fun. Here we go. Here is our adenosine. And I'm going to color code this pink. Okay, next thing that is connected to it is a pentose sugar. Pentose means five. And the beauty of this pentose sugar is you already know it. It's ribose. Think back to macromolecules. Ribose is a 5-sided pentagon sugar where the top is an O. We are going to just draw it super basic, and we'll just draw a pentagon. So here is our ribose. R-I-B-O-S-E. And we are going to color it. I'm going to color it orange. And why is this the case? I'm a little bit unsure when the people decided to name this molecule ATP. Ribose is not in the name. So the name ATP, adenosine triphosphate, ribose doesn't fit in there anywhere, so we're not going to label any of that. Okay, the last part is our triphosphates. So 3 phosphate groups. So we're going to draw those with circles. 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 phosphates. There we go. And we are going to color those blue. 1, 2, 3. So that is the ATP. And then down here, what I'd like you to write is the full name of it. So ATP stands for adenosine triphosphate. And that is what the molecule looks like. This molecule is responsible for all of the energy in your body, and it is why we eat food. We eat glucose, or your body changes whatever you eat into glucose so you can make this ATP. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move on. We are now going to talk about the 3 stages of aerobic cellular respiration. And the first type of respiration that we're going to really discuss and really focus on is aerobic. All this means is we have oxygen. Okay, so we're going to write a little have oxygen, O2. Typically, this is the type of cellular respiration that happens in your body, unless you are like working out really, really hard and your body has run out of the oxygen, you're breathing really heavy, your cells might go into anaerobic respiration. But right now, we're just talking about typical aerobic cellular respiration. Okay, so the 3 steps. The first one is called glycolysis. So it's Glycolysis, glycolysis. The second stage of this is called the Krebs cycle. And it was named after a scientist. And then the third step is the electron transport chain. Okay, there we go. 3 steps. Okay, we're going to go through this in a clockwise fashion. So we're going to do this step right here next, where we are like going to delve into the mitochondria. The entire part of cellular respiration, the entire process of it happens in this organelle right here. And I just said the name of it. Based on our drawings, you should be able to figure out what it is. It is the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. Oh, yeah, so exciting. Okay, so down here, let's write mitochondria. Yay, mitochondria. Okay, and inside of the mitochondria, each one of those steps, glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain, happens in a different area. Okay, so the first one that we are going to label is the Krebs cycle. And the reason we're doing that one, the first one, because it in your drawing makes the most sense. So in this middle area right here, like in between all of the membranes, this is called your matrix. And this is where the Krebs cycle happens. Krebs cycle. And I, for the sake of colors, am going to highlight the Krebs cycle. And I am going to color this in. Does it have to be perfect? No. Should it be slightly pretty? Probably. Should it be organized? Absolutely. There we go. There we go. That is where matrix and arrow 2. There we go. This is where the Krebs cycle happens. The electron transport chain, we're just going around, is going to happen in this inner membrane. So in between this outer membrane and this inner membrane, this like space right here, that is where the electron transport chain happens. So inner membrane. And for electron transport chain, I'm just going to write E with a minus, transport. Okay, and we are going to color that one yellow. You can color it what other color you want, but I'm going to do yellow. Right, and then your last one just following around is going to be our glycolysis. Glycolysis actually doesn't happen, glycolysis, in the mitochondria proper. It's going to happen in this space right outside of the mitochondria, and that space is called the cystole. So Cytosol, cytosol. Sorry, not cystole. Cytosol. There you go. And for that one, I'm going to choose orange, highlight it, draw the arrow, and then we are just going to color around the outsides. Around the outside. There you go. Okay, so now you know where in the mitochondria these three happen. Okay, last step on this page is we are going to write down the equations for cellular respiration. And these are the most basic equations. Let me refocus this. There we go. And, oh, we got some light. There we go. Perfect. Like, there we go. They're the most basic equations, and so we will get more into it where we talk about more complicated molecules, but overarching, this is the equation. So aerobic cellular respiration, we are taking glucose. We are adding oxygen that we breathe in. So we're eating glucose, we're breathing in oxygen, and what we're going to get from that is carbon dioxide. And water. You're breathing out carbon dioxide and you're also creating water. Okay, so that's like big overarching. Like if we were to make it as simple as possible, that is it. Oh, wow. Sorry, messing with the color so you can see everything. There we go. Okay. So the other two types, that's aerobic. The other two types fall under the umbrella of anaerobic. So we're going to write the equations for those two, and then we're going to go deeper into aerobic. So fermentation is anaerobic, anaerobic, and it takes place in the absence of oxygen. So this is what happens when you don't have enough oxygen to support whatever activity you're doing and you need more energy. So what's going to happen is we are going to take that glucose and you are going to make it into lactic acid or lactate. This is the stuff that makes your muscles hurt. So when you are like out running and you are running and you're running and you're breathing really hard and you feel like you can't get enough oxygen and then your legs start to burn, that burning is the lactic acid. It means that your body has gone into anaerobic cellular respiration. You don't have enough oxygen, but you're still breaking down this glucose to try and get energy. Okay, the second thing that could happen is ethanol fermentation. So you can take glucose and you can turn it into ethanol, which is a carbon-based molecule, and we can make carbon dioxide. All right, so now you have this very beautiful, colorful, let me change it so you can see the color. Oop. There we go. Very beautiful, colorful set of notes. We will continue on in the next video, but this was part one. Thanks, everyone. Part two of our cellular respiration notes. So let me present my screen. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we are going to break down the three stages, glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and electron transport chain, into what actually happens in every single one of them. Like what are the inputs, what are the outputs, and how do they relate to making ATP? Okay, I'm going to zoom in and we're going to start with glycolysis. Okay, so glycolysis takes glucose and is overarching going to create two pyruvate molecules. Pyruvate. So we're going to take our glucose, and hopefully you still have your colors. Here's glucose. And it is going to create pyruvate, which we are going to do as, I'm going to do blue because I'm going to say pink for ATP. Pyruvate. Going to make two pyruvate molecules. Okay, That is first step. Important here, no O2 required. It doesn't take oxygen to do this step. There you go. No O2 required. And you're going to have two outputs from this. Down below, one of the first outputs, whenever you see this like star effect, this is ATP. ATP. Woo, that's the goal. I am going to color the outside pink because pink reminds me of energy. If I had green, I would use green, but I don't. So, okay. And then the other thing that's going to be produced is NADH, which is another molecule that is useful for later on. So overarching glycolysis, you take this glucose, you are cutting it in half to make two pyruvate molecules. Out comes one ATP, one NADH goes out, and another big part, no O2 is required. Okay. Second step, the Krebs cycle. So the Krebs cycle, many redox reactions happen in the Krebs cycle, which maybe you touched on this in chemistry last year. If you were in my class, we didn't talk about this. What that means is that a lot of different molecules are either giving up electrons or accepting electrons, okay? And this is happening a lot. I am not going to require you to memorize all of these. You will at some point, probably, especially if you take biology in college. But for the purpose of this class, we need to know general inputs, general outputs. Okay. So this Krebs cycle, we're going to talk mostly about the outputs for it because they are the most important. So it's going to take these two pyruvate and they're going into this. And what we are going to get is we're going to get a little bit of ATP. A little bit of ATP and carbon dioxide. Oh yeah, this is what you breathe out. And if you look here, O2 is required. I'm just going to circle that. O2 is required. So you have to breathe for this one. And then the two other things that you're going to get out of it is more NADH, which we will talk about why we need that in a moment. And then you're going to get the molecule FADH2. And we will talk about that in a moment as well. Okay, so that is the Krebs cycle. Here we go. I'm going to use orange, just kind of represent all of these arrows. You know that it's like a roundabout cycle, lots of reactions. Here we go. Krebs cycle. Okay, last step, the electron transport chain. This is the step that we are going to dive deeper into, and you should be able to explain a little bit why it happens, but this is the overarching look of it. So up above, we see that this NADH, and this FADH2 is going to go into the electron transport chain. All of those are important. It is also going to use oxygen. Circle that. O2 is required here. And it involves oxidative phosphorylation. That is the textbook typical name for this. Phosphorylation. And chemoosmosis. Chemoosmosis. And this produces the most ATP. This is the most important step because it's going to produce the majority of your ATP, and you want that for energy. Okay, so we're going to have ATP, and they're extra around it because it's a lot of ATP. So make yours really big. Yeah, so much ATP. Yeah, woo. And then the other thing that it's going to make is water. Okay, so we have all of these weird byproducts, right? We have pyruvate, we have NADH, we have FADH2, but we use all of those to do the final product of ATP and water, right? And carbon dioxide. Those are the ones we got. And we are starting with glucose and oxygen. Okay, let's dive deeper into the electron transport chain. So we're just going to move down to this second half of our notes. So NADH and FADH2 transport electrons. That is their whole job. They take electrons and they are transporting them to the electron transport chain. So this is a series, the electron transport chain is a series of proteins embedded in the inner mitochondrial membrane. As electrons pass along it, an electrochemical gradient of protons, which are protons we are just going to call hydrogen ions, so they are H+. I'll zoom in too, so you can see it a little bit better. I misspelled hydrogen. Yeah, go Benson, hydrogen. See, also the beauty of me doing this is I don't hear your voices being like, Miss Benson, you misspelled it. I get to tell myself, which is so fun. Okay, so this gradient of protons is established in the flow of hydrogen ions back through ATP synthase by chemoosmosis drives the formation of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. So this is something that you should hopefully remember from the beginning of the year. Synthase, ACE, the suffix ACE, does anyone know? Think about it. What does it mean? It means it is a enzyme. Yeah, synthase is an enzyme. Okay, so synthase it's an enzyme that helps make ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. So this is known as oxidative phosphorylation. And the final electron acceptor is oxygen. So those electrons go down, gradient, and then eventually they are going to attach to the oxygen. And it combines with electrons and hydrogen ions to form water. And that is why water is produced in our electron transport chain. Okay, this right here. Maybe you understand it. Okay, if you do, amazing. Maybe you are like I was when I first learned this and read this, and I was like, that's a word I don't know. That's a word I don't know. That's a word I don't know. So if you are that person, that's a word I don't know. We are going to continue with a diagram to kind of give you a more visual. We drew a fluid mosaic model about a month ago, and here it is again, okay? A lot of stuff in biology is just gonna pop up, pop up, pop up. We are gonna label this as the electron transport chain. Sweet. Okay. This channel protein, right? This channel protein is our enzyme. If you remember, enzymes are types of proteins, and this is our ATP synthase. This is our enzyme that makes ATP for the body to use. Okay, we're going to color that. I am going to color it blue. There you go. Okay. All right. The other thing that I would like to do is I would like to color all of the electrons yellow. And if you want to do a different color, you can. Just make sure it's consistent for all of the electrons, just so we can have a little bit more of a visual. And then I'm going to color all of the hydrogens orange. These are our protons, our H pluses. Here, okay. And then our last one, ATP, is always going to go in this like crazy. Here we go. ATP. There we go. Okay. So NADH, and FADH2. There they are. They're the initial electron producers or electron donors. Okay. So they are transporting the electrons to this electron transport chain in the plasma membrane of our mitochondria. Okay. So here are the electrons that they transfer. They go in, they're going to that integral protein, they're going to this integral protein, they're being transported down, and eventually they get pushed out, and they're going to combine with oxygen to make water. Oxygen to make water. Okay. And then what's going to happen is ADP is going to take these hydrogens up here, and they are going to combine it with ADP. So it's going to combine these things, and what we're going to get is ATP. So we are going to take this phosphate group, which I do not have another color for, so I'm just going to circle. It's going to take this phosphate group. It's going to take ADP, which is just adenosine diphosphate. So we need an additional phosphate group. It's going to combine these to make ATP. Okay, so that is the electron transport chain. A couple of things to note here. When we were talking about membranes, we were talking about a lot about concentration gradients. Here, we are making a concentration gradient, so these hydrogens are being forced down into ATP synthase and into the cell. So it's like following this concentration gradient. That is like the sole purpose of getting these electrons and transporting them. Okay, so those are the 3 stages of aerobic cellular respiration. Nice job. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit exactly how ATP works. So we're going to take these notes and then we're going to draw a diagram of it. So hopefully these two together will give you a clear understanding of how ATP actually works. So ATP is like a full battery. That is the analogy that we're going to use. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see this. It's a full battery. It has stored energy created by an unstable bond between its second and third phosphate groups. So when you look at adenosine triphosphate, I'm going to go back to these. Here you go. Here's adenosine triphosphate. This bond right here between these 2 phosphates and this third phosphate, this is full of energy. Full of energy. So when you break that bond, a ton of energy is released, and we use that energy for all of your everyday activities. So it's this bond specifically that holds all of the energy. Basically, this phosphate doesn't want to be here. Okay. So when the cell needs energy, this bond is broken, and the third phosphate group is released along with energy. And then this molecule is now called ADP because it's adenosine diphosphate. So we'll write that, adenosine diphosphate. There it is. Okay. So during respiration, energy released from the breakdown of glucose can be used to add a phosphate group to ADP, generating ATP. We were just talking about that. This is generally known as phosphorylation. We talked about that word too. Phosphorylation. During aerobic acceleration, it is called oxidative phosphorylation, as oxygen is required. Okay, we're going to draw a diagram of this just to make sure that it goes into your brain. So we've got a ATP. So we have adenosine triphosphate right here, ATP. And this is going to be our battery. I really wish I had a green highlighter. Let's see. I have purple. It's kind of like green. Not really, but here we go. So this is a battery, and it is completely full up here, right? So adenosine triphosphate is completely full. And what happens is the body is going to break down this adenosine triphosphate into a phosphate group and energy. Now we have ADP. So we're going to draw a little ADP. We're going to draw a little flag. Here it is. And then we're going to draw our pentose sugar, our ribose. And then we're going to draw 1 phosphate, 2 phosphate. That is ADP, adenosine diphosphate. And this is now has no energy, a dead battery. So then it's going to go into cellular respiration, and we are going to add that phosphate back to ATP. And this is like the ATP cycle of how we use it for energy. Great. All right, last thing we're going to talk about. Last thing, yeah, and then you're done with notes. So we're going to talk about aerobic respiration versus fermentation. Fermentation is when you do not have oxygen. Okay, it's when your body has run out of the oxygen. Okay, so let's compare the two. Over here, we've got all of the different things that can happen, and we're just going to write the number on which ones they involve. Okay, so the first thing, produces ATP. That's both of them. They both produce ATP, so put 1. Doesn't matter. Requires oxygen. That's going to be aerobic. That's the only one that requires oxygen. Number 3 has 3 main stages. That is also going to be aerobic. If you think back, we have the glycolysis, Krebs cycle, electron transport chain. 4 breaks down glucose. Both of them break down glucose. That's what we start with. 5 produces a small amount of ATP. That's going to be fermentation. It doesn't produce as much ATP as aerobic. Think about it. If you're running and your muscles start burning because you've got that lactic acid, you're breathing so much, you are eventually going to run out of ATP because your body's just not producing that much. Okay, 6, oxygen is the final electron acceptor. Oxygen is only in aerobic, so it's going to be over here. 7, produces lots of ATP. That's going to be aerobic. This is kind of like. All right, 8, the first stage is glycolysis. Both of them, first stage is glycolysis because that is the only stage that doesn't require oxygen. So both of them are going to start with glycolysis. And if you remember, glycolysis takes glucose, there we go, and breaks it into 2 pyruvate molecules. All right, next one, doesn't require oxygen, 9. Put that over here. 10 uses electron carriers. 10 is both of them are going to use electron carriers. 11, pyruvate derivative of it is the final electron acceptor. That's going to be fermentation. Pyruvate is the final electron acceptor instead of oxygen. 12 products are lactic acid or ethanol and carbon dioxide. That is going to be fermentation. And then the last step, products are water and carbon dioxide. That is going to be aerobic. And that is it. You have finished your first virtual notes. Wonderful. All right. I would so much appreciate it if you liked this video, if you took the notes, if you feel good about it, if you would please smash that like button. Yes. Hit subscribe, please. That would be so fun. You could fund my future. Wonderful. Okay. Bye, everyone. See you in class.